What do you mean I have to do it alone? What? No, I understand. I get it. Yeah. No, it's cool, man. I got it. I'll do it. That's fine. Oh, crap. I'm live. So, hey, welcome back to AEW Aftershock, everybody. I am Brant, the Raptor. Yeah, I know it's corny, but it's what we do, right? It's wrestling. We love wrestling, so we can be a little corny, but I am on location still again. This is a brand new episode of AEW Aftershock, episode 12, and you will notice that my co-host, Chris Falcon, is conspicuous by his absence. Now, if you haven't been following Chris on social media and so on and so forth, news is two very big things happened, two very private things, but unfortunately his father passed away last week. But his new baby girl was born this past week as well. So he is dealing with a lot of different things going on right now. Little baby was a little early, so she's in the hospital, but doing very well. So Chris will hopefully be back next week. He wanted to be here, but he just couldn't with everything going on. So hopefully you guys understand. This is going to be a much shorter version of the show. Like I said, I'm on location. I'm actually kind of on baby duty myself, helping out with my fiance's sister's baby. So yeah, lots going on in the land of Aftershock. So let's get into it. We are going to be talking about AEW Dark from last week and AEW Dynamite, getting you primed and prepped for this week's editions of the shows, which start tomorrow night. And sorry for this one being a little bit late. This was the first chance I had to record this one. So let's just jump right into it. We're talking about Jon Moxley, Chris Jericho, the Inner Circle. I'm just kidding. Let's get into it. So AEW Dark. There was only two matches on AEW Dark this week. There was a squash match with Awesome Kong versus Skylar Moore, which was it's just another one of these squash matches that Awesome Kong's been doing for the Nightmare Collective. Nothing really to talk about there, but what there is to talk about is SCU versus Kip Sabian and the Hybrid 2, which was an amazing match. Christopher Daniels was back on his game, even though he hesitated, did not do the Arabian Moonsault. He kind of held back, but still, he was top form. They were all top form. There were so many high spots in this match. This could have been on Dynamite. This could have been pay-per-view. This pay-per-view quality match. Fantastic match. But SCU pulls it out in the end, and maybe Christopher Daniels is back on a roll. We'll see as we get into AEW Dynamite. This was a big episode. We were promised Cody's reaction to MJF's stipulations for their match. We were promised Jon Moxley giving an answer to Chris Jericho for the invitation to join the Inner Circle, and then we had a whole bunch of other matches to talk about. So let's get into AEW Dynamite from January 8th, the second episode of the year. First match on the card was Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page versus Private Party. This was stemming from the altercation that happened last week where Adam Page was stealing Private Party's booze. Basically, he's walking around drunk and not knowing what to do with himself. But him and Kenny Omega are teaming once again. They've been teaming. They've been doing really well together, so they just keep going. Unfortunately, in this match, there were several miscues where they almost hit each other or they did hit each other, but somehow they still pulled out the win after a fantastic match. They could not put Private Party down, and Private Party equally could not put them down. It was a back and forth match with all the stops pulled out. But in the end, Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page pull out the win as the Elite continue their winning streak. So I don't know what's going to happen here, if Adam Page is finally going to reconcile with the Elite or if he's going to do his own thing. Nobody really knows. So we're just going to have to see what happens as things go along. We also had the AEW women's match. This was the match that Chris and I thought was supposed to happen last week, but instead they had that four-way match. So this week we had Riho defending against Chris Statlander, which was a really good match until Brandy Rhodes' Nightmare Collective got involved. Awesome Kong and Mel came down to the ring and interjected themselves, and unfortunately cost Chris Statlander her chance at the AEW Championship, AEW Women's Championship. So not sure what's going on there. If they're still trying to recruit Chris Statlander, or Chris Statlander made herself an eternal enemy of the Nightmare Collective. I'm not sure. what's going on there, but we will be on top of that and talking about that as the Nightmare Collective kind of comes back into the forefront. But we did finally get to see who this mysterious bald guy that they had join the collective that we've seen in little vignettes was, and it's nobody I knew. And this is what I was kind of afraid of. A lot of people guessed it was going to be Gangrel. He was going to come back in, and unfortunately, unless you're like really dialed into the indie scene and specifically the Japanese wrestling scene, you had no idea who this guy was. This guy was Luther. They had to tell us multiple times who this was. He's one of the kings of the death match in Japan. And I don't know him. I know the only thing I know is because I looked it up is that he's good friends with Chris Jericho. So I don't know what his role is here. He's kind of semi-retired, so I don't even know if he's going to be an active competitor, why he's getting involved in the women's division. So we'll just have to see what happens with this. But it was a little disappointing this reveal. I was hoping for something a little better, somebody I maybe knew. That brings us to Christopher Daniels versus Sammy Guevara. We talked about Christopher Daniels with AEW Dark and how he was back. And in this match, he was throwing Sammy Guevara left and right. He was giving him everything he got, and it was like the Christopher Daniels of old. Unfortunately, Sammy Guevara pulled out the win, and Christopher Daniels could not get the job done because of some interference. The Dark Order actually came in, and after the match, and the Dark Order was like attacking Christopher Daniels, and then SCU came up, and then the Young Bucks came up, and there was this whole big brawl. And the Dark Order, for the first time, were left reeling. They had to run with the tails between their legs because they got the crap beat out of them. So this was the first time we saw the Dark Order get defeated or taken down. What does that mean? They're gonna have to step up their game. They're gonna have to get new members. They were trying to recruit Christopher Daniels, who threw the mask back in their face and said, "Nah, I'm good." And that's kind of what propelled this particular brawl. But we'll just have to see what happens with the Dark Order from here. I should mention it was Pentagon Jr. that got involved in the match. He just kind of distracted Christopher Daniels, kind of put some doubt in his mind, and that's kind of why he lost his focus and actually lost the match. Which it's weird that they are continuing this feud where they're taking one guy from a trio, and his partners are the tag champs, right? So he's not involved in anything. He's been out for a while, just came back. And then they're taking another guy from a tag team that wrestled primarily as a tag team, and these two are feuding. And he keeps getting involved. And we thought this was over, but apparently it's not. So there's still this thing going on between Pentagon Jr. and Christopher Daniels that we'll just have to keep our finger on the pulse of it and see what happens. Then we had, speaking of Pentagon Jr., he teams up with his brother Ray Phoenix, and they take on the Rhodes brothers, Cody and Dustin. And Cody and Dustin, obviously they've teamed before, but they haven't teamed a lot in AEW. But this match they did, and they hung with the Lucha Brothers. Now, the Lucha Brothers were pulling out all their stops as well. They're high flying. They're amazing agility, athleticism, everything they could. There was this beautiful spin kick that Ray Phoenix did where he jumped in the ring and then just in one fluid motion spin and kicked I believe it was Cody right in the face, and it was just beautiful to watch. But Cody was all over the place too, jumping from one side of the ring to the other, and in the end the Rhodes brothers pulled it out as the Elite once again continue pulling out the wins. So unlike last year where they were losing all the time, now the Elite is going strong. After the match, Tony Schiavone is asking Cody Rhodes if he's going to accept these crazy stipulations that MJF put forth last week. And if you don't remember, Cody would have to defeat MJF's associate Wardlow. He would have to fight him in a cage match. He would have to take 10 lashes of a leather strap or a whip or whatever to his back. All these crazy stipulations that MJF is putting forth. But Arn Anderson, earning his pay as their coach, comes in and says, "Who made this guy king? He's nobody. Why does he get to call the shots? We'll give you our answer next week." And that kind of ended it there. So the fans were a little bit disappointed they didn't get answers. I was looking for answers, but at the same time, it's good that they didn't just let this guy book his own matches. And it's like, you know what? This guy is one of the VPs of the company. You're not going to name your stipulations. We'll come back to you later. And that brings us to speaking of trios, we had an amazing trio match with SCU versus, not SCU. I'm sorry, I got SCU on the brain. We had the Best Friends at Orange Cassidy versus the Jurassic Express. You had two fan favorite teams, and this was just amazing. You had, on one side, you have Marco Stunt, on the other side, you have Orange Cassidy. And you had just hilarity between these. Orange Cassidy has such a buzz, such a following. The dude can just walk in the ring, and the whole place is on their feet, standing, cheering. And all he does is, like, he's like the most laid back guy. This is his thumbs up. He puts his hands in his pockets and he wrestles like that. It's crazy. It's not somebody that would ever get over anywhere, but this guy is like super over, one of the most popular guys in the company. And then you have Marco Stunt, who's like 4'10", and 100 pounds if he's lucky. And just this guy is these two. You put these two together, and then you got two amazing tag teams with the Jurassic Express, with a big, tall Luchasaurus who can move around like he's 150 pounds. And then you got, on the other side, you got the Best Friends. You got Trent, who is amazing, and Chuck Taylor like stepped up his game in this match too. This was a really good match to watch, and you should go find this on TNT or on their YouTube channel if they have clips or whatever, because it was a really, really good match. But in the end, excuse me, it was Jurassic Express that pulled out the win over Best Friends and Orange Cassidy. And that brings us to the main event of the evening, which was not a match. This was Jon Moxley's answer, whether he joins the Inner Circle. And obviously from the thumbnail of this video, you already know the answer. Jon Moxley acted like he was going to join the Inner Circle. He made this whole big speech how Chris Jericho was a mentor and a friend, and how he came to AEW to dominate. None of this mattered what Jericho offered him. He didn't care about the money. He didn't care about the Ford GT worth $750,000. He didn't care about any of this crap. All he wanted to do was dominate, and what better way to dominate than to join the most dominant group in AEW, the Inner Circle. So he takes off his jacket, unveils that Inner Circle shirt. It's like, yeah, we're going to do this. And they party, they celebrate, and, they're popping champagne and all this stuff. And Jon Moxley stops him for a minute and says, we forgot something. And Jericho gives him the keys of the car. So he's got the keys. He puts them in his pocket. And he's like, okay, they go back to party and everything. Finally, Jake Hager and Sammy Guevara leave the ring, leaving just Jericho and Moxley in there. And Moxley's like, cut the music. There's one more thing. I'm just kidding. And he smashes a champagne bottle over his head. Jon Moxley is not going to join the Inner Circle, but he takes off with the Ford GT. And he says the only thing he cares about is the title around Chris Jericho's waist, building up to this eventual match, which I think is going to happen at AEW Revolution on February 29th. We will just have to wait and see. But little telegraphed. It was. They threw us, though. This party went on so long that you thought for a minute, like, wait a minute, is he actually joining? So that was done well. But obviously, Jon Moxley can't join the Inner Circle. Come on. But this was handled really well, and this was a great episode of AEW Dynamite. No real complaints here. The only thing was the Luther thing, because I didn't know who he was, so that kind of fell flat for me. But everything else on the show was really good, and I think Chris would agree. If he was here, we would have very little to nitpick this time. They promoted a little bit about AEW Dark next week, which is tomorrow night is when it airs, and it's the Memphis Legends. They show a bunch of legends from Memphis Wrestling, because that's they're filming in the area, and so that's going to be cool. They had actually Dave. What is his last name? I cannot remember his last name, but they had a commentator that's from the area, guest commentating for a match on this show, which was a really, really pleasant surprise. We had Tony Schiavone back. And so it was cool. Overall, I thought this was a really good show. And just like last week, it feels like after that 2 or 3 week kind of slowdown at the end of last year, they really picked it back up with these 2 episodes. So hopefully it continues to grow and build towards this next pay-per-view that they have at the end of next month. So, yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Again, thanks for understanding Chris not being here this week. Hopefully he will be back next week so we can talk more about some AEW Dark and Dynamite, and I'm looking forward to what's
going to take place. I'm looking forward to it, what they're building up for this pay-per-view, because this is going to be they're kind of building up to be their big pay-per-view of the year. So I'm really hoping that we get some more insights into what kind of matches we were hoping to see on this event. And so, yeah, I guess I don't really have much more to say. Like I said, I got to get back to it. And we will see you next week for a brand new episode of AEW Aftershock right here on Comic Frontline. Please hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get updates on all the content we put up here. Hit that like button over there so we know that you like us. And check out our social media for all kinds of updates. If you're into comics, we do weekly live show on Tuesday nights, Comic Book Weekly right there. So you can check it out as we give our top 5 and all those thoughts. But until next time, thanks for watching. I am the Raptor, signing off. Bye.